It's been almost a year, as of the recording of this video, since the release of the latest mainline Pokemon titles, Sword and Shield. Even now, these titles remain mired in controversy due to the numerous points of lies, leaks, and misinformation to come out in the time leading up to launch that split fans of the series and created a level of distrust in the development team that had never been seen before on such a scale as it was. Look at any tweet to come out from the official Pokemon Twitter account, and you'll see the flame wars continue, even to this day, between those that attack these titles and those that defend them. Fitting, really, for the games that hold the honor of being called Sword and Shield. Before we get into the details of this messy hot pot of curry that is Sword and Shield, I do want to make my stance clear. I've just come off replaying the game recently, while restricting myself to a Psychic type mono run, and I'll admit, I had fun while doing it. While replaying, especially outside of the initial release window, when emotions were high, and you were either for or against these games, I was able to step back and catalog the various things I appreciated and the countless things I wish were improved. I don't plan to trash Sword and Shield in this video, but I do plan to make a point that these games and the Pokemon titles to come in the future could be far better. And don't worry, I'll also cover those details that I think were good, and in some cases, the best you'll find out of any of the mainline Pokemon titles to date. So, I'll start first with one of the good things when it comes to Sword and Shield. I think the most obvious point that a large part of the Pokemon community will be willing to admit is good is the atmosphere. When I say that, I'm aiming that comment towards the Galar region's heavy emphasis on the enjoyment and the sport of battling. Those first few gym battles or challenges in your very first playthrough of the game, where you walk out of the gate and into the large and grand stadium with so many spectators cheering you on as you duke it out with the gym leader. It's truly awesome. This is also the highest point you'll get for the rationality behind the idea to implement Dynamax into the game. Talk more on this later. Then the stadium, Dynamax really does feel epic, and even long after you've beaten the game and are on your 100th online battle, the tension of Dynamax does provide a level of thrill. I think one big talking point about Sword and Shield is that its graphics and its animations. There are a lot of controversies sparked over these subjects, from the infamous Wild Area tree that looks like it was ripped right out of Ocarina of Time on the N64, to the developers at Game Freak deflecting criticisms about another massive controversial topic, the Dex cuts. A brief rundown on this is that they claim to be creating high-quality animations since Sword and Shield were obviously HD titles, running on home console hardware. So in exchange for the cut of over 400 Pokemon from the titles, they would be recreating brand new assets in both models and animations to make the games look as best as they could. About 1 week before launch and the games leaked online, it was made apparent that this claim from Game Freak was a blatant lie to deflect criticism at the time, and much of Sword and Shield's assets were ripped from the 3DS titles, as most fans had already suspected. Even if a large portion of the Pokemon animations are quite static, one part I think would be easy to dismiss is the nice quality of animations present in the human characters throughout the game. A lot of people would point to how Raihan takes a selfie when Dynamaxing his Pokemon in battle, and I agree, that's an insanely good bit of animation that adds a lot of personality to his character. But outside of that, there are countless other great battle animations. The way Oleana scrunches up her face out of anger, or how Hawk clutches the Pokeball before throwing it. There are even other examples out of battle. One of my favorites is how NPCs are programmed to smile at your character when you walk up to them. There's also room for improvement in places, however. Professor Sonia attempts to twirl her hair while speaking at points throughout the game, and in certain angles it's plainly visible that her fingers make no contact with her hair at all. We haven't even gotten into some of the biggest grievances with cutscene animations. The scene where one of the legendary mascots makes a 360-degree turn while awkwardly spinning looks absolutely awful. Being an animation student myself, I can understand the spike in difficulty in between animating a bipedal human and a quadruped, like Venusaur for example. The game really is about the Pokemon, so having many of them appear lifeless due to lack of detail in their animations really undermines the game's world and characters. Game Freak and the Pokemon Company have the resources to certainly improve this area of the games, but now we come to the harsh reality in that while they do have the proper resources, they simply aren't willing to spend the time to do so. This trickles down into many other problems I found in the core of Sword and Shield that I don't even think has been as prominently visible in any other 3D Pokemon titles as they are here. Sword and Shield had a set release date months in advance that lined up with the holiday season in 2019. Outside of this, being a new generation meant that with the inclusion of dozens of new Pokemon would also come the arrival of new merchandise, new TCG card expansions, a new anime series, and of course, new plush toys of Wooloo. It's speculated that due to this time constraint, Game Freak was unable to fully realize entire portions of the game. I would say this can start to be seen as soon as briefly after you leave Monostoke, the third town. The first dungeon of the game is Galar Mine, number 1. Yes, there are 2 Galar mines, and neither one of them have unique names. The first mine is nothing short of a hallway with a few trainers and a few branching paths that lead to an item at the end. And this hallway-like design permeates a large amount of routes further into the game. There's no blocked pathways, and thus no need to return to areas to explore. The towns are also hit with this unfinished feeling. Balan Lee is a great example of one of the game's most breathtaking areas in the game, but only happens to contain 2 houses and the gym. Spikemuth is another example, where there isn't even a town to explore at all. It's just one long hallway with battles, sprinkled in to serve as the gym challenge. And the Evil Team dungeons? Absolutely pathetic. I literally have forgotten the name for Chairman Rose's goons because they're that unmemorable. There are 3 fights with the same trainer in repeated succession as you play hide and seek in the center plaza of Wyndon as you try and get the keys to enter Rose Tower. After that, you enter the tower and there's just no dungeon exploration. You head to the elevator, fight a grunt, then fight 3 double battles within the elevator with Hop before you reach the top and have a battle against Oleana. 7 fights, a cheap attempt to pad game time, and an elevator that requires no input from the player, compared to bases from past games like Silph from 1st Gen or the Galactic Headquarters in 4th Gen. Sword and Shield tries to follow the formula of its predecessors, but barely manages to do so. There's also very little optional content in the game in general. You as the player are constantly being rushed from gym challenge to gym challenge, with oftentimes only 1 or maybe 2 routes bridging towns together. Maybe a battle with your rival Hop to add some variance in from time to time. One big letdown is where after you beat the 7th gym, there's an explosion from Pokemon Dynamaxing outside of the usual stadiums, and Leon tells you to just go get that last badge, and he'll handle things. When you run towards the explosion, which takes only 1 screen to travel, Hop shows you the cool photos that were posted on social media of Leon having already taken down the Dynamax Pokemon in literal seconds. As a player, you've been itching to finally tackle something different, and the game dangles it in front of you, your face, yet stops you from participating in anything relevant to what's happening on the sidelines. Until the very last few hours of the game, when you're suddenly tasked to take down Chairman Rose and Eternatus in the climax of the story. Not all things about the game design are bad, don't get me wrong. When we first heard the experience share was going to be baked into the game's battling system, with no way to turn it off like X and Y, or Sun and Moon, there were concerns of the game being too easy. On both my playthroughs, I found the level curve to be quite fair, with the final epic battle against Leon being challenging and rewarding. This could be because I didn't participate in raids throughout the game's entirety, and thus avoiding the only side content the game has to offer, alongside the benefits it brings of giving you candy to level up your teams quickly, But oh well. I think the leveling curve was tailored properly this time around compared to previous 3D era Game Freak titles, and it makes replaying the game quite easy to get into and enjoy. The rapid pace of gyms and minimal story makes replays a lot more enticing than Sun and Moon, for example, with its drawn-out tutorials and unskippable cutscenes. In that respect, I think the decision to implement the EXP share like they did in Sword and Shield helped to create what might be the best level curve in a mainline game to date. Let's finally look at the things that were cut or neutered in order for these games to come out as they did. We already covered the 400 plus Pokemon that were cut, some of which have now been implemented back into the game after an overwhelming amount of feedback from players. Next would probably have to be the defining features of the two previous gens, Megas and Z moves. Now that we've seen what will be in the final DLC wave for these games, we know for certain both of these mechanics were completely stripped with the possibility of never returning. The same could also be said for other ways to battle, such as triple and rotation battles. Countless different ways to play were simply cut, and even after almost a year now, Game Freak has left the online singles format to die without addressing an issue with the timer being too short, causing those that play singles to have no reliable way to play their battles on cartridge and instead opting for Showdown. After this long, the YCOM, the way to connect and play with others online, still doesn't work all that well. And after so many months of knowing that Pokemon Go would have connectivity with Home and by extension Sword and Shield, only to now find out there's some sort of microtransaction fee within the process of transferring your Mons over, on top of maybe already paying for a Home subscription too. Game Freak, and more importantly the Pokemon Company, have been setting themselves up for PR disaster after another for probably the better part of 5+ years now, and all those frustrations are finally coming back to hit them. Moments when Masuda claimed they didn't include the Battle Frontier and Oris because they wanted people to play their games quickly and move on to the next, noting modern mobile gamer attention spans. Or when after announcing Ultra Sun and Moon on 3DS, instead of the rumored Switch port Pokemon Stars, President Ishihara reassured the fans that a true console experience for the dedicated fans would come out next year. Fast forward, and he repeated the same spiel again when they announced Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, in order to quell some fans' discontent again for 2 years in a row. This isn't meant to be a video where I go and say, I think Pokemon is dead or anything. I actually did thoroughly enjoy my time with Sword and Shield after coming back to it the second time. However, that doesn't mean all of the compounding issues I ran into didn't make me want more. Pokemon definitely deserves better, and I'm making this video just to put out my thoughts on the whole issue, which has been probably boiling up since Ultra Sun and Moon. The final DLC in Crown Tundra is almost here, and nothing drastic seems to have been done to address any of the issues that plagued the base game. I'm sure that with the next games, there will still be those that enjoy it regardless of issues, and that's okay. Pokemon is a series that is not only near and dear to myself, but to countless others across the globe. But I truly do hope that with all the feedback from fans over Sword and Shield, that Game Freak learns from some of their mistakes and manages to put out something next time that unanimously blows players away. Alright, so those were my thoughts on the controversy surrounding Sword and Shield and what I thought with my time playing the games. If you guys are still sticking around for this part of the video, please feel free to drop your thoughts on Sword and Shield, Game Freak, and the future of Pokemon down in the comments below. If you're a fan of Pokemon, there's a good chance that maybe you're also a fan of anime. If you are, I'd recommend going out and checking out my friend's channel, Beer Sora. He does a lot of really cool anime analysis videos and other things anime. His channel's a lot more active than my own, and he's actually the person that kind of got me into finally making this video been a video I've been wanting to make for a long time, and finally it's here. So if you guys could go check out his channel and show it some love, I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyways, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until then, I'll see you next time.